Hi, this is Jerry Kassar, the state chairman of the New York State Conservative Party. Welcome you to our most recent edition of our regular podcast, Patriots Podium. Our podcast, which feature political leaders, elected officials, public policy experts, and civic leaders, hope to provide the public with an informative program on a variety of topics. Today, I am pleased to be joined by former Congressman and candidate for governor Lee Zeldin. Of course, Lee came within a hair of being elected governor, receiving one of the largest votes the Conservative Party has ever received. In Congress, he was known as an expert on fiscal matters, national security, and international affairs. Lee's an attorney. He's also a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve. Together with his wife, they are the parents of twins and live in Suffolk County. Lee, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you.
Good. Let me ask you, Lee. I'm certain the first question our viewers would be interested in hearing about since the gubernatorial election is really, what are your plans for the future? I mean, you've been involved in many things ranging from re-electing President Trump to assisting local candidates around the country, as well as issue advocacy and the not-for-profit created to assist New Yorkers. So please, could you bring us up to date on what you're thinking?
I have to tell you, the one thing that I would say it's worth bragging about more than anything else is being a dad. I spent 12 years in elected office, and coming out of Congress, my girls were in the middle of 11th grade, 18 months away from graduating high school. Now they're heading off to college as freshmen. This is the first even year election since 2006 that I'm not a candidate for office. And it's been great making up for lost time and ensuring that my daughter's most recent memory from childhood is being able to spend as much time together as a family. So that has been priority number one. At the same time, it is so important that we get involved in this year's election. November 5th is rapidly approaching. I want to do everything in my power to make sure that this ticket from President Trump and J.D. Vance down to candidates for the state legislature and many races in between, that we have our strongest foot forward here in New York and across the country. So I've been traveling around the state, been traveling around the country. I will continue to do that nonstop between now and November 5th, because we have a country to save. We have a state to save. That fight is not any less important than it has been at any other point in the past. And if you care about our border, our economy, our energy policy, our national security, foreign policy, and more, you have to get engaged. And I want to do my part.
Well, you always do your part, certainly in a variety of different ways, and ran one of the most outstanding gubernatorial elections in my memory. That just coincidentally today, the day we're taping this, Harris announced Tim Walz for VP. Personally, I thought she selected an individual that plays right into Conservative Party's concerns about this ultra liberalism that is taking over the Democratic Party. Can you just give us your thoughts on the Democratic choice for vice president?
This is wild. You had conversations going on amongst Republicans, Democrats, Independents, right, center, left, leading up to this decision for Kamala Harris, all basically agreeing with each other that Josh Shapiro would have been the best option of these finalists. The governor of Pennsylvania, he has a high approval rating in Pennsylvania, an important battleground state. And at the end of the day, what appears to have happened is that Josh Shapiro's biggest liability, his downfall in his quest to be Kamala Harris's VP nominee, is that he's Jewish. And you have a left wing of this party, anti-Semitic activists, who made it very clear that they would have no tolerance for picking this Jewish governor from Pennsylvania as the VP. And it's wild, after everything that we've witnessed since October 7th, that the Democratic Party still would be yielding to this pro-Hamas wing of their party, because what happens is they get empowered and it starts growing. Tim Walz now joined with Kamala Harris. This is by far the most left-wing major party ticket we have ever seen in this country. And the center of this country is not going to be happy about it, because there are a lot of Americans who are concerned about the direction of this country under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They will be even more concerned about what that means with the policies of Kamala Harris as president and Tim Walz. as the vice president. We remember what happened in 2020 with people burning down Minneapolis. We have read the stories of Tim Walz signing bills to be giving out tampons inside of boys' bathrooms in Minnesota. We know about his proposals to get rid of uh, fossil fuels. We know about his support for increasing taxes. The list goes on in so many ways that should be massive alarms and red flags that would have blocked his ascendancy to being the VP nominee. But actually, this is a record that qualified him in today's Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, Elon Omar, AOC are thrilled by this pick. They were pushing Tim Walz. Jamal Bowman went straight to social media to praise this pick. So the pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party, their allies, they are thrilled. That says all you need to know. And give you one other example. Go look at the video of Tim Walz announcing a new state flag for Minnesota. Watch him replace the Minnesota state flag with a flag that looks just like the Somalia state flag, and think about that level of pandering, of the ways that he is trying to change Minnesota to make Elon Omar happy. Makes you wonder, to what extent is he willing to go change America if he was put into that vice presidential seat? Last thing I would also point out, go look at his record on China. Decades. I mean, he was married and honeymoon there. He was a defender of China in Congress. His history there goes back many, many decades. Somebody who has a strong connection to the CCP, and I don't think that plays well, especially with the nature of this current U.S.-China relationship. We need people who are going to be strong as leaders in government to confront Chinese aggression, not somebody who's going to be basically pandering to it and appeasing it and trying to strengthen that relationship even further.
I mean, frankly, he makes the last national candidate, Walter Mondale, coming out of Minnesota, look downright moderate. But I guess that's where the Democratic Party's going. But let's talk a little bit more about the national ticket. I mean, I was at the national convention. You were a prime time keynote speaker at the Republican National Convention. I mean, this was both in a significant and a frankly historic moment. I do have questions about the presidential race as well as state and local politics, but I was wondering if you could tell us how this came about, what you did to prepare, and what it felt like to be center stage. It was like 15,000 people there, but I mean, you were being watched by tens of millions of people around the nation. Tell us a little about that whole experience, if you don't mind.
It was an honor to speak in Milwaukee at the Republican National Convention. Back in 2020, I spoke at the Republican National Convention, but that was during COVID and the speeches were pre-taped. This was an opportunity to share my thoughts with all the developments during the Biden-Harris agenda presidency as it relates to foreign policy and national security and the border and our military. So to be able to touch on all of these key issues that outline, I think, is clear contrast between what we had under President Trump during his 4 years, what we've experienced over the course of the last 3.5 years under the current administration, and what this crossroad moment means. While we see new wars starting and we're not seeing other conflicts ending, right now we're seeing one light after another being lit, and a threat, a reality that at any moment this could get much worse, especially inside of the Middle East. We see a military that is being used as a social experiment again, like we saw towards the end of the Obama administration, rather than just being focused on being the world's greatest fighting force. We have a border right now that's open as opposed to a border that was being closed. That was the strongest that I ever remember in my lifetime as we were living through the 4 years of the Trump presidency. And now what we have is a threat that the border is going to continue to stay open. The sanctuary city and sanctuary state policies would be safe. There's a push towards giving people who are legally here the right to vote, and they already have all sorts of free goodies. So to be able to speak on that theme night of making America strong again, was a great honor. Spoke there, as you pointed out, towards the end of the night. That was the night that J.D. Vance accepted the nomination and introduced himself and his wife to the world. And I think that he did a fantastic job as a messenger who, in many respects, is aligned with President Trump's positions. It's a strong ticket. I support the Trump-Vance ticket 100% in this quest on November 5th to be able to save us from what would be a very dangerous direction under a Harris-Walz presidency. So I feel like everybody out there who's tuning in, we all need to do our part, no matter what part of this state you live in. If you're tuning in from outside of New York, we all have to do our part, and we have to ensure we're not waking up after November 5th with any regret that maybe we should have worked a little bit harder, that maybe we should have taken less for granted. The reality is we should take nothing for granted.
Well, Lee, I mean, really, for some time, you've enjoyed a close personal relationship with President Trump. Polls, like we've talked about, move around. It feeds the chatter in class. But only a handful can really speak to Donald Trump's vision for our nation, his character, work ethic, and patriotism. I think you are one of those few that can actually do that. Could you tell us a little bit about President Trump, the man you know?
President Trump is somebody who has experienced just about every attack imaginable. We've seen it play out just in this year. The amount of sacrifice that he is going through is incredible for what could instead be a retirement of enjoying life, his family, riches. No one really needs the level of firing that he has received, both figuratively and literally aimed at him. It's just incredible that he continues to stand, he continues to fight, no matter what's been thrown at him, and he's doing this for what really is a higher calling. And President Trump, behind the scenes, is a great listener. I think a lot of people don't understand this. That if any of us, you could be a 12-year-old, you could be an 80-year-old. If you have an idea on something you're passionate about and you want this president to hear you out, he's listening. Too many politicians are looking over your shoulder, trying to figure out what the next conversation is. Their pride and ego making them act like, not just think like, but act like they already know everything on anything. President Trump is somebody who is a good listener. He wants to have the best people around him. He wants to hit the ground running in January. He wants a historic day one, a historic first 100 days. And he wants to have 4 years where he can fix so much of the damage that has been caused over the course of the last 3.5 years. Truly, our country is at a crossroad. And if any of us thought that President Trump has already experienced every element, I had just posted on social media this clip of Jamie Raskin, who's the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, talking about even if President Trump wins fair and square, it could be a massive margin. Everybody can universally, unquestionably declare that President Trump clearly was the winner in a free and fair election. Despite all of that, Jamie Raskin is calling for Congress on January 6th of 2025 to block President Trump and to get ready for civil war. Jamie Raskin's words, not mine. And it's clear that, and it really is a reminder to all of us that even if you think President Trump has experienced it all, even if we all believe that we have all seen it all, the reality is that they have more coming. They're going to do everything they possibly can to prevent President Trump from having that opportunity to save this country.
Lee, is J.D. Vance a victim of mainstream media returning to its long-term plan to get Trump?
Yeah, J.D. Vance was experiencing a pretty amazing character assassination straight out of the gate before he had an opportunity to be able to properly introduce himself to the American public. The level of character assassination that started instantly was pretty wild. J.D. Vance is somebody who grew up in poverty, never forgot where he came from. He's a Marine. He's well educated. He's articulate. He's a hard worker. He's likable. And he has been a great messenger of President Trump's policies and vision for this country as he works hard traveling this entire country. I encourage people to just get to know the man, get to know his story. If you haven't read his book yet, it's a great read to know more about who J.D. Vance is and where he comes from. If you want the shorter version, you can go watch the movie, I guess. But the fact is, this is an American dream lived without, pursuits of billions of dollars. It's not about having the biggest possible house or driving the nicest possible car, but understanding that success in life, first and foremost, is about having a strong family, strong values, and never forgetting where you come from. That really is the core to success and understanding right from wrong.
Let me ask you, you have been, as you indicated, traveling the state and, of course, around the nation. Your view of U.S. Senate and House races, likely, overall outcomes in the House and the Senate?
Before the Democratic Party ignored the will of 14 million of their own primary voters and took out the leader of their party, the President of the United States, to install Kamala Harris, a move that was orchestrated by the Democratic elites and celebrity donors of the Democratic Party, the way things were trending, President Trump was heading towards a landslide. Republicans were going to win the House. Republicans were going to win the Senate. And every day it was getting even better than the last. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, you've seen a circling of the wagons by the media, by the Democratic Party, by social media, big tech, trying to hype Kamala Harris up as someone who she's not, to try to turn her into someone who is perfect without any flaws, without any damage in her past or her voting record, trying to create this new imaginary person. And that helps contribute to a honeymoon. And the honeymoon ends up benefiting her for the polls, for fundraising, for the party down ballot. And we'll see how things play out over the course of the next couple of weeks. Once we get past Labor Day, people are going to start voting. Ballots go out in Pennsylvania and Arizona and elsewhere, North Carolina and other states. Voters are going to be heading to the polls. So November 5th can't be viewed as election day anymore. Really, it's the last day of voting. It's an election season that we're experiencing in this country. I don't believe that we should be voting for as long as we see in the country. And I think that we should have voter ID in all 50 states. We shouldn't have ballot harvesting anywhere. We shouldn't have universal mail-in balloting. But where these laws are on the books, we need to lean into these laws and beat the Democrats at their own game and make the Democrats regret legalizing some of these bad election laws in the first place, and then they won't try to pass them elsewhere. Down ballot, we have great candidates running for the House and Senate, whether it is an incumbent running in a tight race or it's a challenger running in a tight race. Here in New York, we had 6 Republican House freshmen elected in districts that Joe Biden won in 2020. So in 2022, you have these 6 Republican freshmen. You have a Republican delegation in this state that became more Republican than we've seen in decades. And now many of them are battling in their first reelection. On top of these candidates running their hard-fought races is that we have opportunities for pickups. Alice Esposito running in New York 18 against Pat Ryan is probably one of the best target races for a pickup opportunity for Republicans nationally. That's right here at home in New York. New York 3, Mike LaPetri is running against Tom Suozzi. That's an opportunity. Across this country, Bernie Moreno running in Ohio. I just did 6 events with him a couple weeks back, traveling throughout the state. We see pickup opportunities in Montana, in Nevada, in Arizona, and elsewhere. West Virginia is going to flip after Joe Manchin's retirement. So I still believe that Republicans are at an advantage right now in the Senate. I think that the House really is a toss-up, and it could go either way. And anyone who is speaking with extreme confidence about the House definitely going Republican or definitely going Democrat, unless they have some type of crystal ball that really no one else has, I think in reality, they're probably just being too confident or too optimistic. The reality is, as of today, when you and I are talking here, is that the House is very much up for grabs.
Well, thank you on that. 2 years ago, many of those pickups were due to your gubernatorial race. I mean, your numbers were off the charts, so you can never forget that or thank you enough. So let's
We
talk
have
a little bit
great,
of.
I mean, it's about great candidates who now, when they have incumbency, just need to work hard to be known, to build their own brand, maybe earn the support of people who didn't vote for them last time, raise more funding. And it's hard to win that first race, especially taking out an incumbent. But a lot of these new freshman incumbents have been working incredibly hard to keep their seats.
So let me turn to some state items, and we really appreciate your time. Proposition one, it's a state constitutional amendment. It's on the ballot this November. Yeah, I've heard it described as an anything goes amendment that will impact everything from parental rights and men and women's sports, providing new arguments in support of giving non-citizens the ability to vote. Of course, the left wing wants to frame it as all about abortion, which it really is not. Your thoughts on the amendment, its impact on New Yorkers, and fighting it this November?
This is an effort by the left in Albany for far left Democrats trying to put their entire woke agenda into the New York State Constitution. If you don't want to give a protected constitutional right for a boy to compete against a girl in girls' sports, if you don't want to give a protected constitutional right for a boy to use a girl's locker room or a girl's bathroom, well, you need to vote no on Proposition 1 when you go vote this November. If you are concerned about the ways that Albany and local municipalities have been pandering to people illegally in our state with all of the free goodies that they're getting, if you're concerned about New York City giving the right to vote to people who aren't even citizens, then you have to vote no to Proposition 1. This is an effort to move their entire agenda forward, utilizing, referencing this change to a state constitution as their justification for where anything that they do in the future is protected by the New York State Constitution. So this is a threat to our values as New Yorkers, our future as New Yorkers. And what is so disingenuous is the effort by some to frame this as being all about abortion. It is not. You're not going to find the word abortion in what was passed by the state legislature. You're not going to find the word abortion when you go vote in November. As of now, it's not even in the language that will be on the ballot, although the left is trying to use their friends in the state court to try to add the word abortion. But the reality is, if you want to talk to the bill sponsors and get the rest of the story, Brad Hoylman and Liz Krueger, far left state senators who had pushed through this Proposition 1, they'd be the first to admit to you that this goes way beyond just abortion. Maybe the pollsters, the political consultants on the left don't like that truth being admitted to by their own party, but the fact is the fact. And I guess, in some small respect, I'd say kudos to Brad Hoylman for admitting what we all know to be true, that this is a lot more than just their push to try to make it all about abortion. That part's ridiculous. And in New York, we know that they've already codified far more than Roe, and that when we woke up the day after the Dobbs decision, the law in New York was exactly the same as it was the day before. But that doesn't stop the left from engaging in their fear mongering to try to motivate their voters who otherwise are not inclined to support them.
Thanks, Lee. Let me ask you this. Hochul can hardly get out of her own way. Congestion pricing fiasco, continued out of control immigration crisis, increasing deficits, little criminal justice reform, and possible environmental policies, and it goes on and on. Will you consider running against her again in 2026?
There are post November 5th decisions that I've been waiting until post November 5th. I've enjoyed, as I mentioned with the first question, going through this even year election and just being able to help all these other great candidates on the ballot, and not being out there as a candidate for myself for anything, The only title that I've been competing for, trying to be the best at, is making the most of every moment that I've had with my daughters before they head off to college. The direction of the state under Kathy Hochul has been horrible. It's not getting any better. She is a walking identity crisis. She has upset the right. She's upset the center. She's upset the left. From one issue to the next, she tries to be all things to all people in a way that makes everyone feel like she's loyal to none. And by loyal to none, I mean not only loyal to no wing, and not loyal to constituents and voters, but really to principles and values. You don't know who she's going to be tomorrow. And as November of 2026 gets closer, odds will just continue to rise that she'll be whoever her consultants tell her she needs to be to try to win. And I just think that in government, whether you have to show up and vote for the person you think is best to be your mayor or county executive, or you have to go vote and decide who's going to be the best person to be your next president of the United States, it's nice to know that that candidate who you're voting for knows who they are. They know who they want to be. They're articulate and explain to you what they want to accomplish, what they want to do, as opposed to somebody who will say one thing to you one day and will walk away from that conversation, walk into another room and say the exact opposite to another group. And that really sums up who Kathy Hochul is. So no matter what, putting my own decision-making process aside, I think it's really important for all of us as New Yorkers to take back our state, to end one-party rule up in Albany, to focus first and foremost, once we get past 2024, on important local races in 2025, including for New York City mayor and beyond. And when that opportunity presents itself again in 2026, we need to pick up where we left off, all of us as New Yorkers, in saving our state.
So let me conclude this with a basic question, and of course, any final words you would have for our audience. Tell us about the Zeldin Care Initiative. I mean, I've been reading things about it. It actually seems like almost a philanthropic activity on your behalf, and I've actually never seen anything like this ever done before. So tell us about Zeldin Cares, and then any final words you might have for our audience.
Coming out of Congress, I created a 501c3 charity called Zeldin Cares, trying to uplift underserved communities in New York, targeting the areas that are most in need of help. A lot of communities inside of New York City, especially, but not just New York City, and in some respects, not even just New York State. We've helped some underserved communities out of New York as well. Our biggest initiative so far has it was called the Dakota Project. It's an effort that continues. It is a partnership with Arctics Apparel and the Dakota, and with the Bruderman Family Foundation. Dakota Project, it's named after Dakota Bruderman, is the daughter of Matt Bruderman, who is the chair of both the Bruderman Family Foundation as well as the head of Arctics Apparel. And this was an effort to distribute 108,000 brand new pieces of cold weather apparel to people who need it. The homeless, low-income veterans. There was over $5 million worth of brand new apparel. We were honored to spearhead this project, working closely with these partners and working with other partners in communities, not just across the state, but across the country. We hope to be able to continue the Dakota Project heading into next winter and beyond. And to the extent that Arctics Apparel is willing to partner with us and the Bruderman Family Foundation, we stand ready to serve. And we've done a number of other projects to be able to lift up underserved communities. I would encourage people to get involved with Dakota with Zeldin Cares. You could go to zeldincares.com. You could learn more. You could sign up. You could donate. And we want to continue this charitable effort. In the middle of all of our other endeavors, it's important for all of us to find ways, however possible, to be able to give back. There are many ways to serve. I continue to serve in the Army Reserve. I love it. I enjoyed serving in Congress. It was an honor. Whether you serve in elected office, whether you serve in the military or your law enforcement or firefighter or EMT, no matter who you are, wherever you are tuning in, there are ways for us to make our community better, to make our state better, and to make our country better. And as far as Zeldin Cares goes, anyone out there who wants to get involved, we certainly would encourage it. Grateful for your leadership with the New York State Conservative Party, Chairman Kassar. It's been an honor to be able to work with you. And it's been a long time, going back to 4 years in the state Senate that I had served, and before that. And every step of the way, everything that you do to make this state stronger. You don't get discouraged. You're still a New Yorker. I'm still a New Yorker, fighting even harder than ever before, understanding these stakes and not getting complacent. So it's been a great partnership and friendship. And it's really been an honor to follow your lead into more than one political battle. And I'm sure there's still many to come.
There are, and they're happening right now, in fact. I want to once again thank my friend Lee Zeldin, who is a true champion for common sense government. I would also like to thank Katie and Andrew, who make these podcasts a reality. Once again, this is Patriots Podium, a regular podcast of the New York State Conservative Party, and I am State Chairman Jerry Kassar. Thank you.